Fridays at 9 a.m., WOCA and the Early Learning Coalitions of Marion County will share information on the coalition, what it does, voluntary pre-kindergarten, and more. Roseanne Fricks, Chief Executive Officer, and Elizabeth Yola, Chief Program Officer, will be guests. A bright future starts with preparation now. Knowledge is power, and good beginnings equal great endings. We all benefit from the greatness, so be sure to tune in each Friday at 9 a.m. for early learning right here on The Source. This is Ocala Talks with Tom Schmidt, bringing stories that are important to our community in and around Ocala. Plus, of course, a splash of sports as well. Now, here's your host, Tom.
Welcome back to Ocala Talks on a Friday. It's 9 o'clock. You just heard in the commercial break, that means it's time for the Early Learning Coalition. Joining Elizabeth Viola is in studio with Roseanne Frick on the phone line. Good morning, ladies. There's Roseanne. Okay, now again, it's only live radio, and I've only been doing it for 9.5 years. I still don't know what I'm doing. Still have no idea. We also are joined by Paula Lopez, who's the Executive Director of Kinderoo Children's Academy. I love Kinderoo. Just right every time I say Roo, it reminds me of Good morning, Paula. We're here to talk about something I don't know what it is. That's why I love when y'all come in. VPK, voluntary pre-kindergarten. I always thought I was on VPC. They make survivors. VPK, voluntary pre-kindergarten. Who wants to explain that to me? Okay.
Yeah.
You want to start, or shall I kick us off?
No, you can kick us off. I just like to say good morning and personally thank Paula for taking time away from her very busy business right now to join us. And of course, thank you all for this morning for sponsoring us this morning. So Elizabeth, tell us what VPK.
The Ocala Golf Club, one of Ocala's premier golf courses, from its pristine 18-hole course layout to its amazing pro shop. Jason Linhart and the staff at Ocala Golf offer everything that you need for your golf outing. That's the Ocala Golf Club. Experience country club style golf at municipal prices. You won't go wrong with the Ocala Golf Club. Call them for a tee time today, 352-401-6917.
Cost to the parents. There is not a registration.
You know what you want to do in retirement, but do you know how to get there? Tune in to Coasting into Retirement with Gary Marriage of Nature Coast Financial Advisors, Sunday mornings at 8 to get answers to your retirement planning questions. Plan today.
And them taking advantage of it.
Is this, for lack of a better term, so I don't understand. When I was in school, 40 some odd years ago, we had something that was introduced in the early 70s called Head Start. Is this basically a modern version of Head Start? Is that what VPK is?
It's not necessarily a modern version of Head Start, but it's a partner of Head Start.
Partner with Head Start.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
So Head Start, they complement each other, definitely. They're both developmentally appropriate as far as the curriculum goes. They both support family involvement and engage the children in a way that will lead to their success.
Paula, we're talking with Paula Lopez. She's the Executive Director of Kinderoo's Children's Academy. Paula, tell us a little bit about what you do with VPK and what Kinderoo does.
Thank you, Tom. So the reason we have the children at our school is because we need to get them ready for kindergarten. So we know that by age 5, the children's brain is fully exploding. And there are many standards, there are many developmentally appropriate practices that we need to expose the children to be engaged so that they can be ready for kindergarten. The standards that we work with are the physical development, approaches to learning, social and emotional development, language and literacy, mathematical thinking, scientific inquiry, social studies, and creative expressions through the arts. So one of the main components is working with social skills, because when they go to kindergarten, children need to be able to have these skills ready and available.
We don't need them biting. We don't need them fighting. We need them to be socially ready to go. Right.
Yes. Yep. And so when they're ready to learn, then the kindergarten teachers can pick up from there and take off.
You said language, and from a Hispanic standpoint, because the heritage of the Hispanics are they keep their language, which is a great thing because the people end up being bilingual is great. But I know I have a lot of my Hispanic friends that have 4-year-olds, 3-year-olds that they speak Spanish to them, and they do speak some English, but they want to keep their native language, the kids knowing it. So by the time they get to VPK, they might not be as far along English-wise as an English public school would need them to be. So that's a big deal, helping them become bilingual.
So we refer to them as English learners, and many of them come to the school, and not just Spanish-speaking families, but we have other cultures within our school that we know that they don't speak English, and so we work with the families. We also have bilingual teachers, but we work with those families that we don't know the language in order to begin with just basic language skills. And then the more they hear, we want to encourage them to continue their first language at home, but the more they hear it speak and the more that they're involved in this type of environment, because they're so young, they learn the language so quick. And the good thing about it is that if they learn it before the age of 10, then they will learn how to speak English with the accent of, like, from this country or from Ocala, for where they're from.
I know that to be true, and the older you get, the less you can learn, because I tried to do a crash course on Spanish because I was going to Mexico for Christmas 2 years ago. I got baño and cerveza. That's pretty much all I got. That's pretty much all I got. Roseanne, is teaching, getting kids in VPK to understand language and getting them ready for a second language, no matter what ethnicity they may be or what language they speak as a first language, is that something that is going to become more and more the norm as we progress in the future? Because, 40 years ago, you learned English and that was it. But now people are keeping with their heritage, they're keeping with their first language. So are we going to see more and more bilingual and maybe even more kids that know 3 or 4 different languages as they get older?
Yes, and we certainly feel and know that will happen, because we are all about diversity, and we are all about ensuring that education and knowledge is received in the best way so the child can use that information. So language is a big part of that, and absolutely, there was a study done not too long ago, and in Marion County alone, Tom, there are 27 different languages spoken. So that's a lot of
languages.
27. Yes. So the diversity is vital, and the things that Paula just shared about teaching in different languages for the sake of understanding and comprehension on the part of the child has to be there if we are going to adequately prepare these children for kindergarten.
Look, I think you've missed 3 languages, because I have Irish, Scottish, and English friends that they say they speak English, but I can't understand them. So I think there's more than that, Roseanne. Elizabeth.
That's also a different category.
Elizabeth, how important is it to have a resource like the Early Learning Coalition that can help parents get in the right situation with VPK? Because not every VPK school is right for everybody. It is something that you need to investigate and choose what's best for you and your child. So how important is it that there's a resource like the Early Learning Coalition that can help with that?
Well, we are the hub to basically get a child into VPK. So everything is done online through our website, which is www.elc-marion.org, and a parent can register there to apply to get their VPK certificate of eligibility. So in order for a child to qualify, they just have to be 4 on or before September 1st of that program year and live in the state of Florida. From there, we will help the parent find a program such as Kinderoo that works for their family. The programs are all individually set up through each provider, and the providers do have to meet requirements in order to offer VPK. There are qualifications that they have to meet, such as teacher credentialing, and they have to use a certain curriculum that's developmentally appropriate, and they have to keep their ratios low. So that part of the classroom makeup for VPK is really vital.
Paula, to have a successful VPK, how important is it to make sure it's a good fit for the child and a good fit for the parents?
That's a great question, Tom. So there are different, the good thing about VPK is that it's very flexible. So like there's different programs throughout the county. My particular program offers different hours. We have 8 to 11, we have 9 to 12, and then we have from 12 to 3. So the flexibility is one of them. So when we speak to them for the first time, we want to make that connection with our families, and we give them a tour. We talk about our curriculum, our approaches to education, how we document the children's process, how we assess the children 3 times a year during the school year, which is the AP1, AP2, and AP3, and that's a requirement for VPK, because we want to know how the children are doing, because we need to make sure that they're ready for kindergarten. So we meet with the child at the same time, and the children walk around the classrooms to take a look at it, and then it's just important to build those first connections, and then from there, then they can either opt to go to other tours in other classrooms, but it's basically our programs are flexible to be able to work with the working families, and it's not just our schools, but all schools throughout Marion County.
Roseanne, we're talking with Roseanne Frick. She's the CEO of Early Learning Coalition. Roseanne, how important is it to not just have that flexibility, but have that accessibility to VPK for single parent families or working families? How important is that?
It again, it's one of the definitely vital components of it, because not all work schedules for all of us that work are the same. So for a parent to have those options and choose a schedule that meets their needs and their child's needs has to be there if we're going to walk the talk of having our kids prepared for kindergarten. Some parents don't go to work until noon or later or earlier. So the flexibility that is available through the VPK program and the child care providers that offer it with the scheduling is vital to its success.
Paula, is there any one thing that is more important cognitive-wise for a kid in VPK? Because you read a long list of things that you're able to teach them and able to approach with children. Is language more important than the other skills like math or science to get them started? Or, is there any one thing, or is it all so comprehensive that you just need to give them a little bit of everything?
That's a great question. So every child is different. And so our approach is also through play. And so we build all those, every single content in the standards. We have a list of the things that we know we need to cover throughout the school year. So it's not just at one time, and then we just work with the children, because the children have different intelligences. And so we need to work with their intelligence in order for them to be able to learn all these components.
You brought up the word play. How important for a 4-year-old? We're talking about academics, we're talking about teaching them language, we're talking about giving them some basics in math, basics in science, stuff. But how important is doing that through play, something that children already have a great understanding of because they've been playing for 3-4 years? How important is it to still use the actions of play to help with these teaching moments?
And that's one of my favorite questions, and I can talk about this for hours because I am passionate about it. So it is essential. This is how children learn. And so when children are engaged in play, it's like, how boring is it for a child to sit all day long listening to things that we want to teach them, but rather they learn those things through play. So I always give examples such as if you love radio talk shows, you're going to listen to different talk shows because it's what interests you. It doesn't interest me. I wouldn't learn from it because I'm not interested.
Hold on. It's not making me happy. It's not making me happy, Paula.
Well, I'm not a good speaker. That's why I
You're doing fine.
So that's the part that shows. But you sent me with a room of educators, and I'm a total geek. So same thing with children. Children will learn everything through their play. And it's not just math and literacy, but it's also the social skills that they need in order for them to be successful later in life. They problem solve. They do so much through play.
I found, I was an educator for 5 years. I taught high school history for 5 years. I got out because I hated mamas and daddies, but that's a whole different story. But I literally found that and I was a fun history teacher. I was the guy that would come dressed in period pieces and everything. Because I found if I came in one day dressed like Benjamin Franklin, and I brought in a pair of bifocals, and I brought in a piece of stovepipe, and I brought in different inventions he did, and played it like I was Ben Franklin explaining it, these 17-year-olds and 16-year-olds would get it, and it would instill more in their head than if they were just sitting there and I go, okay, read the chapter on Ben Franklin, answer the questions at the back of the book. We'll have a test on it Friday. Don't bother me, I'm reading my Sports Illustrated. And that's how a lot of history classes were when I was in high school, and I wanted to break that mold. And that's what you're talking about. Instead of doing it, the mundane way of here's the instruction, follow these instructions, everything's different, but play is something the child understands, and it's a way into their mind that they don't even realize they're learning because they're just playing.
It's a connection.
It
Just
is.
like anything else, when we connect with something, we are more invested in it. And as adults, we see so many different kinds of therapies for adults now who didn't get to play enough as children and face the world different ways and didn't have the foundation that they needed. And so in order to help our kids have a better whole foundation as a whole person, not just as our children growing up and we're guiding them, and having all those pieces in place, from the social skills, which when we talk to our kindergarten partners, our kindergarten teacher partners, because we do have a partnership with the school system, the private schools, the charter schools, to now start sharing some information about how children are doing in VPK and pre-K before they get to kindergarten, to share some of those habits and some of those things that they've learned or things that they're struggling with still. That builds that. It's a really strong foundation to support that child growing up, and then the success just follows naturally.
Roseanne, how are we breaking the mold of for a couple decades, couple generations maybe, you've had the single parent household or the working family household that instead of play, the kids were babysat by a computer screen, or they were babysat by a television screen while mom worked from home because her home office was at home and everything. And so play kind of went away, and now there's an emphasis back on play. When did that change happen, and how important is it that we get back to that being the norm, where we don't babysit our kids anymore, or we don't put them in front of a computer screen and say, just watch that, I'll be back? How important is it that we have to institute social norms and play?
So, again, I guess my new word of the day today is vital. I keep using it, but it is it's vital, and it's not anything new. It is like most things. As time goes on and we gain the ability to conduct additional research and see the results that some of these things make, it becomes back up to the top. So play has always been there, and it's becoming more to the top of the list of important elements of a child's pre-kindergarten education process because of the research that has been done and the families that have willingly participated over long term to show how it impacts that. And everything starts with that social, emotional connection. So we have to tell children and show children and allow children the ability to observe, see, and participate in order to learn those connections, to begin to do those things as Paula was sharing. If they want to listen to you on the radio, then let them develop that interest on their own, but they have to have that foundation first.
So I guess our parents, it does. I guess our parents, although we didn't have as much parental guidance in our play as when I was growing up, but we were outside, and the one thing that play got me was play got me to know that if you're 4 or 5, even at 4 or 5, 6 years old, if you are mean to somebody, the group will turn on you sometimes, and you'll be ostracized from that group. If you're sullen and pull back from the group, sometimes little kids will recognize that and say, "Hey, buddy, come play with me" and stuff. The socialization of children leads to the learning of children. Without them even realizing, the socialization to me is the most important part of this whole process of play, because it gives kids the opportunity to understand kids through kids' eyes, and because there's social norms for every group, from adults all the way to small children. There's social norms at work, Paula, and play helps develop those social norms to me better than anything else.
Can I add something?
Uh-huh.
I want to give you a little snapshot of what play looks like and what we as educators get out of it. So because we live in Ocala, we have rivers here, but we also have children that go to visit the beach or the ocean. And so we had 2 children that came, and they were talking about their different experiences. And then the question came up, like, why is the beach, why there is salt in the beach, why is it salty, and why is in the river it's not? So they began to plan. They're exploring and they're investigating, and us as educators, we are making all the connections, and we're documenting everything that they're learning through this, because through this, questions are going to be asked, among them. They're going to, and then to share experiences, and then also we see them counting, we see them saying S for C, it's
right.
Knowing the sounds. And so they're making those connections of what they're learning into their play, and when we observe their play is when we can see that, what they're understanding. So it's not, we take play serious. It's not play where they're just running around.
They're not just running around playing tag and having a good right.
No. With us, that when they're engaged in play, it's our opportunity to be able to see what the children are learning.
I used to dig with my Tonka trucks. I had Tonka trucks. When I was 5 years old, I would dig. And I learned about worms and why they're good for your vegetation, because I was in my grandfather's field that he had crops growing in. I was out there with my Tonka truck dug up some worms, and I go, "Grandpa, is this good or bad for your garden?" And he told me exactly why worms are good for the garden. And it was something that I would have never learned if I hadn't been out playing with my Tonka truck and then ask questions. Because kids, here's a surprise, folks. Pull over. I don't want you to be shocked. Kids are naturally inquisitive.
Yes.
They ask questions. People go, "Kids ask too many questions." There's never too many questions. Am I right?
You are right.
Well, they're new to this world, so
Yeah.
they have all these questions.
And all new ideas, and it's our job as adults and teachers in the classrooms to support these opportunities and to really engage in those teachable moments. The worms in the dirt, that's a teachable moment.
Of course it is.
Grandpa could have said, "Go away."
Yeah, he could.
But instead, you got to learn this experience and got to engage with this natural piece too, which that's something else that I really love that Kinderoo does, is introduce this natural play with natural objects that you find in the world, which is fantastic.
Yeah, because I learned about how when I was a kid, I would go with my dad to Jack's Beach, and Jack's Beach had rocks, huge boulders. And I go, "Why is this boulder this way?" And my dad would explain to me, the water runs over it, it erodes it. And so I knew at an early age what beach erosion was and everything, because I asked, why are some of these rocks bigger? Why are some of these rocks smaller? And those are the kind of things, when you say it's not just play, you watch over and watch what's happening, and then when the questions come, you're prepared for those because you kind of knew those questions were coming watching their play. Is that basically what you do, Paula?
Yes, and it's, we don't necessarily need to know the questions. We can research them with the children. But I mean, like with the boulders, if I didn't know it, I was like, let's go find the answers.
Let's go find out.
Because we want them to be problem solvers. We don't want to give them all the answers. We want to teach them where to look for the answers too.
Talking with Paula Lopez, she's the executive director of Kinderoo Children's Academy. Elizabeth Iola, as always, from ELC, and Roseanne Frick from ELC. Hey, ladies, once again, 30 minutes is gone. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks, Roseanne.
Okay.
Thank you. Have a good day. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks so much, both of you, for being here and for everything you do for the youth of Marion County. Coming up next, more with me. Maybe I'll have a teachable moment and I can teach you something out there in radio land. You're listening to Ocala Talk from 1370 AM, 96.3 FM. Oh, and by the the way, I'll have some help because my fiance Susan's on her way in the building. You're listening to The Source.
USA Radio News with Lance Fry.
President Biden and a bipartisan group of senators announced Thursday they have struck a deal on a $1.2 trillion infrastructure plan.
They have my word, I'll stick with what they propose, and they've given me their word as well. So, where I come from, that's good enough for me.
The plan will now travel through both houses before it becomes law. President Biden will meet with Afghan President Ashraf Ghani and his former political foe Abdullah on Friday to discuss Washington's support for Afghanistan as the last U.S. troops pack up after 20 years of war. It appears Afghan government forces are struggling to stop Taliban advances. Firefighters searching a collapsed Miami area condo for 99 missing people shifted their focus to a basement parking structure late Thursday, risking their lives to find survivors. Amid revelations, the building was sinking into the earth. This is USA Radio News.
Rockstar Radio. Did you know this station, this network, is looking for their next rockstar broadcaster? That's right, we are. And it could be you. It could be you interviewing the guests, talking to the newsmakers right in the middle of everything. Have you ever dreamed of being a rockstar show host? Now could be your chance. Together with this station, we'll help you with everything you need. The studios, the equipment, your own producer, a co-host if you'd like, and so much more. Broadcasting is changing. There's never been a